Do.
Okay.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to this edition of Expert Witness with Doug Miner and Stephen Palmieri. And we come to you twice a month with this show for all of you guys, credit repair organizations primarily, and whoever else has the privilege of seeing this broadcast. And my co-host over here, Doug Miner. Doug has run a credit repair company, and that turned into him becoming an expert witness. And so now he helps support consumer protection attorneys to help them to try to win their cases. That's really the ultimate goal, to help them support, the facts with his expert advice. And so, Doug, you're coming to us from with all this real world experience from the courtrooms. How are you doing today, sir? Talk to us.
I'm casual. Obviously, the I haven't shook off all of the Thanksgiving casual just yet, but yeah, it's in foggy Southern California. It's pretty foggy and cold out there today.
It's usually not foggy over there, right? Isn't it? Usually it's pretty darn good most of the time, isn't it?
Yeah, most of the time, but I'm right here at the beach, so we get a little fog. So it's
Very nice. Very nice. And so for those of you guys watching us live, put in your comments below. We are doing this in real time for you. If you have something you want to ask Doug or myself, feel free to chime in. So Doug, we were kind of talking before the show, trying to figure out what to talk about, and you were kind of saying for the CRO perspective, like finding your niche, kind of figuring out. So let's back up for a second, right? So I mean, obviously we've got mostly credit repair organizations watching this. That's our target audience. And I think one of the most difficult things for credit repair organizations is to find a way to get credibility to build their personal brand for their business brand, right? And we were saying, hey, they go and talk to loan officers and different people for referral partners. Some people will go and do actually continuing education courses for like mortgage and real estate. That's kind of a thing. But you were saying, hey, wouldn't it be neat if a CRO could say, hey, I've been an expert witness, in certain of these types of court cases. That's a really interesting perspective on, what our potential CROs could use the expert witness thing for to give them credibility. So let's kind of jump in, Doug. On what does it take to be an expert? How do you find your niche? And then if you're a CRO and you're trying to figure out how can I stand out amongst everybody, is the expert witness route the way for me to go versus whatever else for credibility? Let's
yeah,
just jump in there, Doug. Go ahead and take it away, man.
yeah. I think you bring it up a great topic in the sense of if you want to separate yourself and you want to have that credibility and you want to be able to go out and credit repair organizations, you're out there trying to get new business and new referral partners. So I don't know how, obviously everybody structures that differently, but the credibility piece and being able to go out and um, gain those referral partners. And it's interesting, when you were talking about that, Stephen, just now, I think about how I did it. I went about it with mortgage companies, real estate companies, and probably most uniquely was with property management firms. Not so much the attorney route. I didn't go the attorney route until I had been doing the expert witness work a little bit more. But you also, like, I created a continuing education course for attorneys, right? So all of these things, everything that you're talking about, it goes back to kind of what we talked about right before we got on air. Was I'm able to go and get accepted into an executive MBA program because of my work background and my work experience. So to help the credit repair people here, it's what works best for you. Are you good doing interviews? Are you good at writing articles? Have you written a book? Do you even know how to get a TV interview or a radio interview in your local market or even national market, right? All of those things, all of that type of work, and all of that sort of effort in creating those value propositions for everybody is work experience. And being an expert witness, that's sort of a different level. When I think clients come to you. I don't know. Everybody does it, right? Do people come to their office? Do they just do it online? Is it all automated? I don't know everybody's structure, so just sort of bear with me if I don't match up with your particular setup the way it is. But hopefully, it'll open up some ideas. But I think a couple of things sort of worked, I think, for me best in developing my niche and developing those relationships was one, um, I had hired, and obviously I'd worked in the mortgage industry for a long time. So I had a sales manager who his job was to have me at a speaking engagement at least once a week. And what that meant was either a real estate office, a mortgage office, uh, an attorney, networking group, a community outreach program for first-time home buyers, all different types of things. And so, and when I would go do those speaking engagements, I happen to have my book available, right? The book about credit, The Anatomy is a Credit Score. And by the way, I don't know if anybody wants a copy of it. Let me know. I think we talked about this before. It's going for like $400 or $500 a book on Amazon.
But
But that
forget about Amazon. They can go
yeah,
to dougminer.com and they can purchase it for the low, low price of.
probably $10.
And will you autograph it for them, or is it going to come from the dropship place directly to them?
No, I'll autograph it personally. Autograph it if they want.
Oof, that's worth $400 right there. My goodness gracious! Don't forget my 20% cut on that. Okay, so but yeah, so you are a published author. That's good for credibility, But okay, let's get back into it. So you had your book, and you're going to these places.
And I think when clients come to you and they have these credit problems and they had, I don't know how they all come. My stuff was always mostly referral based, just from mortgage, real estate, like I said, and property management firms. Um, and so they came to, but I think when they're able to talk about you and you're an expert witness, it sends sort of a sense of credibility to what you're doing and how you're helping them. There's a real foundational um, experience I think that they feel, and it's that social credibility, right? They can look you up online. They can see cases that you've worked on. They can see you on different expert witness sites. And so I think it gives you that sales process becomes a little bit easier and a little bit more credible when you've done that sort of thing.
Yeah, let's jump into that a little bit, but let's see. We've got Warren Maxwell. What's up, Steve? Man, appreciate you. And Sheila Wiggins, this didn't come through. She gave double thumbs up. Thank you, Sheila. We love that. Let's see. Warren Maxwell, don't give Steven 20%. Yeah, you're right. I'll do it for a 10% cut. That's right, Warren. You do know I'm a sucker for negotiations. So there we go. All right. And again, for those of you joining us kind of a little bit late, what we're talking about here is how, if you're trying to figure out how to gain credibility to be able to get relationships with referral partners like mortgage companies and whatnot, there's a lot of ways you can do that. One way is putting yourself in a position where you're an expert witness. And so, Doug, I think it's interesting because you were like, hey, there's a level kind of confidence that comes with saying you're an expert witness, but it's not about taking somebody's 2-day course and saying you're an expert witness. To actually be qualified as an expert witness, you are an expert, right? And that's where that confidence comes from. And so if you are an expert, why not leverage yourself or notch yourself up into the position of being able to actually become an expert witness, right? And I think that's kind of the conversation here is, look, people, we look at lots of credit reports. I mean, everybody's in their different stages of their business watching this. Some people are startup, some people are seasoned. They've been doing this for 20 years. But nonetheless, if you're just getting ready to close your first client, well, yeah, you're not going to have the experience, knowledge, abilities, firsthand experiences of the person who's been doing it for 20 years. But as you start to grow your business, you're going to get more experience and more expertise. And it does go hand in hand with what we talk about, especially with the whole pre-litigation methodology, which is number one, you have to know what you're talking about. We don't just kind of like spray and pray. I love that term, by the way, spray and pray. We don't just fire a bunch of letters out at the bureaus and, click our heels and, do the voodoo dance. You want to actually put disputes together that have teeth to them, that have leverage to them, find the errors and things. And so if you're building your credit repair organization, in a pre-litigation type methodology, really honestly, there's nothing keeping you from slowly moving yourself forward to becoming an expert witness. And I mean, what that entails, maybe we could talk about that a little bit. I mean, you've got to have a either one of your clients that you hand off to an attorney, or you just meet attorneys and then they hire you for somebody who's not your client, but they're like, hey, look, Mr. John Doe CRO, I like you. You seem nice. Can you go ahead and look at this case file for me real quick? So maybe we could talk a little bit about that, Doug. Like, if our folks who are watching are becoming experts, what are the different ways where they can actually start to move towards that expert position type qualification?
Well, obviously, I'm going to tell them they should take my course first and foremost. But that's totally up to you. If you see yourself doing it, you hear a lot of things out there, and you're feeling curious about it with the amount of cases that are out there. I mean, I haven't looked recently, but I'm trying to just think. Like in the past, there's probably anywhere from, I'll have to double check, but the last time I looked, it was around 7,000 a year, maybe 8,000 cases, FCRA cases a year. There might be more. It may be rising at this point. I haven't checked in quite some time. But there's a lot of cases out there, and there's very few experts to help out in those cases. So first and foremost, like, the business is there, and how to get it. There's different ways, obviously, to market yourself and to go about it. And I think that's what sort of the first part of this whole conversation is about, is sort of there's all these different ways to gain the credibility. And being an expert witness doesn't mean you have to stop running your credit repair business or doing credit repair sales or even just doing credit repair. You can do both at the same time. They're not exclusive of one another. So that part of it, there's a lot of cases out there, and then how to sort of get started. Obviously, I think everybody's kind of heard my story. It was totally by accident where I did it. And here's, I think, probably the biggest thing that I see is the sort of, there's this unknowing, right? And I'm trying to, people have been asked, like, hey, can I do this with you, Doug, or can I watch this, or where can I see that? It may be as much as just going down to your local courthouse and watching some trials go on. They're open to the public, and go in, kind of see how the court runs. The judge, the juries, just kind of get familiar with the whole being in that environment. If your case actually goes to a trial, I think back.
Even more so. I mean, if everybody here knows some sort of an attorney somewhere, right? I mean, if not, then that's cool too. But that should be probably one of your primary goals, is just to start to connect, go to networking groups, connect with attorneys. But to your point, you can even talk to some of your lawyer friends and, like, hey, can I come with you and just kind of shadow you for, I don't even care what kind of case it is, but when you're going into court, right? Because I mean, you can go and you can sit on the side as a completely unrelated spectator, or you can come as, an assistant guest of the attorney. I mean, there's nothing prohibiting that, really. So
Yeah, I mean, people in their local area, right? I just don't know. Find the people in your local area that are doing these types of cases, or see when's, maybe you can find out when one's on the docket. You can go in and watch what happens. Maybe there's an expert, maybe there's not. Or maybe you might even see where you could have been helpful, right, to one side or the other, and maybe speak to the attorneys after it's over. I never did that, but I think it's a great idea.
well, because you kind of totally slipped up on this opportunity by accident, like you said. I mean, for you, some attorney reached out to you and was like, hey, Doug, can you take a look at this thing and write me a paper? And then they sent you a check, and you're like, what just happened? And your buddy was like, I think you just became an expert. They paid you for an expert witness fee. So okay, so but as far as, so I mean, those are some really good steps to kind of take the next few steps from where you are now as a CRO to moving towards becoming an expert. And let's maybe just kind of talk about the different types of experts, right? You've got testifying consulting experts, you have non-testifying experts. There's actually different ways where you can fit in to kind of that law firm assistance expert type arena. And not all of them require that you potentially have to sit in and testify in court. So let's talk a little bit about the different types of expert witnesses levels that and these things are obviously recognized by the court, right? It's not like, just for those of you watching us, the court recognizes different types of experts essentially. So it's not kind of like, Doug has this, Doug is just like, oh, well, I'm going to give you the A, B, or the C. I mean, what we're talking about here are things that are recognized by the court system. And so how you get finally recognized, ultimately, if it gets challenged, is based on your knowledge, skills, abilities, and experience, right? If some lawyer hires you to be an expert, if you put some sort of an expert report together and the attorney uses that, of course, since you're brand new, not you, Doug, but if our viewer here is brand new in this, that's going to be challenged by the other side. The other side is probably going to file some motion and say, well, we don't think John Doe CRO is actually really a qualified expert. I mean, he just runs this little credit repair business or whatever they can say to try to, I guess, impeach your credibility, I guess is the term they would use, huh, Doug? And so then you sit before the bench, you go before the judge, and both sides, your attorney is going to ask you questions where you can defend the fact that you are an expert, and the other side will ask you a bunch of questions trying to tear you down. And ultimately, the judge will make a ruling at some point in time if the thing doesn't settle before then. And the judge will either make a ruling, yes, John Doe CRO, I believe in my judgment, is qualified to be an expert, or no, John Doe CRO is clearly not qualified. So just for you guys kind of watching, that's like the journey that Doug had to take. I mean, he had a little journey, an attorney hired him, but he did have to go before the judges and get deemed to actually be a qualified expert, by a judge, right? And so you can't buy that with a college degree, right? I mean, maybe degrees help you where you are, but that's the point I want to take away for all of those folks watching is it is in fact your knowledge, skills, and experiences that qualify you to be able to sit before the judge one day as the attorney who you're working for has listed you as an expert and say, here's why I'm qualified, Your Honor, and to have the judge say, you know what, I think this nobody knows him guy is qualified. We're going to go ahead and qualify him. So, Doug Squirrel, I think we're all over the place. I think we're going to talk about the different types of expert witnesses, but just take this conversation wherever you want to, man.
No, I think it's great. I think that just understanding that the market is open for everybody, and I think this conversation spurs on a lot of thought about, how do I want? Is it something that I really want to do? Is it something that if I do it, is it going to enhance already what I do? And the answer to that is, in my opinion, yes. I don't even know you, right? But I feel like I know everyone. So I think that it will help people in ways that they don't even realize, whether it's those referral partners, whether it's the confidence, whether it's finding a niche in what you're doing, figuring out that you really enjoy being an expert witness, you enjoy testifying at trial, or no, maybe you do it once and you're like, well, hell no, that's not for me. That's too stressful, or um, but at least you'll know going forward, right? I'm big on giving things a try and giving it a go, and sort of challenging yourself to just sort of be the best that you can be. So, and I think you're the group, right? You're already part of this group, so you're pretty much sort of part of the elite credit repair organizations out there, anyways.
The what is it, the Illuminati, the credit repair, what's the triangle, where the credit repair elite, the Illuminati, is that right?
Yeah,
So
something along those lines, right? So this is just another way to, if you want to make money, I mean, if you think about cases and sort of, because I don't know if we really talked about sort of the money involved, right? Whether if your retainer's $5,000 and you do a report, well, okay, that might eat up most of the 5,000 just doing the report and going through the documents and having meetings with the attorney and the plaintiff, let's say. Then you have depositions, right? Depositions are going to, be another couple $1,000. And then if it actually makes it to a trial, there you go. There's another 3 or 4 or $5,000. So, you know, a case could be, you may make as much as $15,000 or more on a particular case. But you may only make $3,000 to $5,000 on a case. But and like you were talking about in the beginning, there's different ways of approaching it. And are you going to be deposed on every case? No. Are you going to be going to trial on every case? No. Right? What is it? Less than 5% of cases actually go to trial. So okay, you do 100 cases and 5 of them go to trial. You're probably deposed maybe, I don't know, 10, 15 times, let's say, right?
Because you're just such an intimidating and amazing expert witness that they settle out to just 5% go in the trial. They're like, oh no, this guy's got Doug Miner as his expert. We don't want to mess with him in front of the jury because he looks like a likable kind of a guy. We're just going to go ahead and settle this thing, right? And they open up their checkbook and write a check to the plaintiff. So, all right, let's get serious again here. So, because one thing about this industry is there's a lot of people selling like certifications, all sorts of certifications. I mean, for just different types of things for credit repair. And, that's, they serve their purpose. But I really think being an expert and putting yourself in a position where you can refer clients to attorneys into litigation, even if you're not being an expert, but that's really the ultimate, seal of approval, seal of credibility, in my personal opinion, is to be able to have put yourself with the actual experience in the position. Because in order to get there, you have to have the knowledge that you can't just buy with like some little certificate, like says, oh, I'm FCRA certified or whatever. And again, those things, they all serve their value. Maybe they're stepping stones. But I mean, imagine if you're out here and, you're trying to close deals with referrals. I think that's really the ultimate credibility, is to say, what, I've got clients through my work that we sent out that have litigated. In addition, I've got a handful of attorneys that call on me to help support their cases, Mr. Customer, Mr. Prospective Customer. So that's the value that I bring to you, which, oh, by the way, explains and justifies why I'm not just going to charge you whatever, $79 a month. I'm going to charge you something significantly more, $200 a month, $250 a month, $299. Those are all justifiable prices, even for any credit repair company in most markets. But it kind of ties it back to using the expert witness. I would say the title, but it's not even really the title, because by the time you get the title, you literally are an expert, to be able to hang your shingle, hang your hat on that thing, and tell them, hey man, this is why you should hire my firm.
Right.
So, okay, let's talk a little bit, I guess, about finding your niche, right? I think that's something that we had talked a little bit about before. And again, for those of you guys watching us live, if you have questions, anything for Dougie or me, feel free to. By the way, Doug, what kind of dog is that was in the background there earlier? What kind of little dog you got going on back there,
Oh,
man?
yeah, it's my miniature labradoodle, Charlie.
Yeah, I saw Charlie back there just kind of chilling. Charlie's living the luxury life because Daddy's an expert witness, huh? So look at
Right,
that, man. If you
God,
want
it
your
just kicks
that's
it.
the takeaway for all dog lovers. If you want your dog to be able to live that kind of a relaxed life, being an expert witness can help bring that into reality. So, all right, Doug, let's get focused again here. We joke around way too much. So, you
Uh,
know, finding our niche, finding out what we are actually an expert in. Let's talk a little bit about that.
yeah, I think. Well, I'm thinking credit repair organization people probably came to it like we all come to it in our own way, right? I was in the mortgage and finance and real estate side of the business. Where you're dealing with credit all the time. But then somebody may have worked at a car dealership, right? Or somebody may have been an underwriter in mortgage underwriting. There's all different ways to sort of end up being in the credit space. But as far as like gaining the confidence in your own abilities, I think that partially that comes through like when I work with people, it's developing their CV, their resume, and to your point, all of these different you go to CreditCon, right? And you're listening, and there's all these fantastic speakers, and you're learning all kinds of great things about the industry. It's doing these speaking engagements, like we talked about. All of these sorts of things lend to your credibility, right? Um, and all of that, I think, should give people more confidence to want to give it a try. But everyone learns differently, and everybody needs to sort of develop their own CV and their own little niche in the area. But it could be you only want to work on divorce cases. Maybe your spouse is a divorce attorney, and maybe you see a lot of like I see a lot of that in either expert witness work and in credit repair, right? Um, maybe you just want to deal with car litigation, that comes up, whether it's personal injury cases or it's something, could be something wrong with the car. I see cases where it's wrongful termination, right? You got I've had cases with wrongful termination. So there's all these myriad of ways and niches within doing credit expert witness work, right? And do you want to make calculations to the damages? Do you know how to run proper simulations and do a score impact analysis?
Well,
Um,
and let's talk about that. And by the way, Warren Maxwell, you got to get your street credibility. Yeah, that's right, Warren. You gotta pound the pavement and get dirty out there. But you had just said something I find a little interesting. Are you willing to calculate damages? But you don't have to necessarily be a damages expert per se. And I think that goes back to different niches, right? I mean, you may be an expert in some sort of a different facet of the credit reporting. If you've sent in thousands of disputes for clients and you see how the process works, I mean, there's an expert right there in the credit dispute process,
right.
the credit reinvestigation process. And so I would say, let's not get caught up on. We may look at Doug or some of the other folks in this space who are expert witnesses. Let's not get caught up on their story, their journey, right? Because they all have a different set of skill set, and that's what makes everybody unique and uniquely positioned who's watching this to be able to step up and step into this space. Because you still are an expert. Now, you may not be able to quantify damages per se. Doug was a mortgage broker, right? So you can kind of, you lived that real world life. But if somebody is in here and hasn't had that experience, they may not necessarily have that ability. But you can still certainly say, well, here's why the information was wrong. Here's how we sent it to them. Here's how they responded. Here's why it's still wrong. So I'm not an expert on damages per se, but I can certainly say that this thing should not be in the credit report after 30 days because for the following reasons, it should have been deleted because they didn't correct it. So I don't have to be a genius to say that their procedures failed and that if this thing were not in the report, the score would probably have been higher, which would have resulted in the consumer being less damaged, whatever that is, right? And there's nothing to say an attorney can't hire multiple experts for different like facets of the case, right? Have you ever been on cases, Doug, where they hire multiple different experts for different things?
Yeah, that brings up some really interesting stuff. I mean, I've had a couple different cases where there's been multiple experts, let's say multiple credit experts, actually. Uh, John Olsheimer and I did a case together. He did one aspect of the case, and I did another aspect, more focusing. My piece of it was more focusing on the damages portion of it, where his was more about the reporting side of it. I had another case with another expert, um, and he was a credit expert. He did more of the internal processes within a bank, where I again did the credit scores and reporting and the damages portion of it. Um, so yeah, don't think that. I mean, I do it. I've done. There's multiple experts. Some of them overlap with what I do, and I overlap with some of what they do. But typically, those two things, if you, like what you said in the very beginning of this call today, you talk about defining your sandbox, right? And whatever your sandbox is, like that can be helpful. And so you don't have to have a financial background or, mine's like, obviously, when you work in mortgages and you're dealing with personal finance issues and underwriting guidelines and how, debt to income ratios and how this all interplays with the credit and the impact and the cost differentials, that's all stuff that I've done for 35 plus years, right?
Nothing like getting paid hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars an hour to play in your sandbox, honey
Right.
bun. That is literally what I just took away from here. Unlike the little kids who play in sandboxes for free, you get to play in the dirt and you get
Dude,
paid a lot of money there. So this is Warren Maxwell. Have you gone up against John Yu and who won? I guess say what you can, and
yeah.
change names to protect the innocent and the witnesses and the guilty, all of them.
Yeah, as far as being on opposing side of John Olsheimer, yeah, many times, many times. First and foremost, it's not about winning or losing. Let's just make that clear. First and foremost, um, there's been cases where they have sided on my side of things, let's say, and there's been cases where I believe maybe would have gone on John's side of things. But to say one person won over the other, that totally goes against like being an expert and being impartial and just doing your job, right? Um, so I have no sort of, I don't have any hang up as far as frankly, I don't even look or listen very often, unless one of the attorneys tells me, "Oh, this happened or that happened." Sometimes I don't know exactly what happened as far as who won or how much or things like that. So, and that's probably the most important thing is like you don't want to be. It's not a competition when you have a adversarial expert on the other side. It's and that's one of the things that I learned. It's like, look, no case is perfect. So um, having different perspectives and analyzing it to the best of your ability is what you're supposed to do, and you're hired to do a certain aspect of the case and review certain documents. So there's a lot of other experts that do a lot of great work in our space, and John just happens to be a good one. Um, So sure, yeah. There was one case, I don't know. I think John Ed did mention one of them that just pops in my head, and I think the plaintiff ended up winning something around 400,000, and I was on the plaintiff side. So I
So
don't,
it doesn't really matter if you win or lose, just as long as you win. That is what Dougie is saying here. So, all right. So, Sam Lamar, is there specific general training offered? Well, isn't that the $1 million question, Sam? So Doug does. Well, Doug, I'll let you go ahead and take that, man. Go ahead.
so I do a course where I go through 8 sessions. We go through all the topics, the CVs, your niche, the marketing, the reports, the deposition prep, trial prep, writing out your opinions. If you get into calculations, that's something we can go deeper into. And if you are comfortable doing sort of score impact analysis and simulations, something that can be learned or can be, if you're comfortable doing it already, I don't know if you know how to do it. But yeah, I have a course and I do it one on one just because everyone's so different. And I rather do it one on one with somebody. Sometimes I've done it with some small groups, and that's also from a cost effective standpoint can be helpful for someone. And I also find that sometimes if it's a small group, the questions that people bring up can be helpful to the other people in the group. But when I say small group, I'm talking like, 3, maybe 5 people max kind of a thing. Because I like people to get that one on one, really specific, and like really focus in on how this is going to best benefit you. So, I'm not sure who that is asking that.
That is Sam Lamar. So Sam, if you are interested in talking to Doug, he is interested in talking to you. When you ask him how much it is, he's going to respond with how much you got. So just go ahead and make sure you watch out. But in all sincerity, as we kind of wrap this one up, taking it for the landing, Doug, any final thoughts for our CROs here, and the things that they could take away from this session to make them better?
Yeah, bottom line is there's thousands of cases out there every year that need experts. This group is qualified, I believe, on a very high level. If you want to look to develop your CV and develop your expert witness skills or integrate it into what you're doing, I can help you with that. Take my course, and more importantly, like just I don't know. It's just such a positive thing. It's been a great thing for me, and I just want to share with everybody. So
Rock on. So Sam says, thanks, Doug. Laughing out loud. Okay. He's taking all that money out of his wallet right now. He's not going to go in with all those C notes. So, all right. Well, anyway, we joke around a lot, but as we wrap this one up, so if you guys want to reach out to Doug, he's a great guy. He does like talking to you. You can go to dougminer.com and reach out to him. You've got like an information thing there, right, where they can just submit that to you. And he's also right here on Facebook, Doug Miner. Feel free to shoot him a message. And of course, for those of you guys watching, if you are a credit repair organization or even a consumer protection lawyer looking to figure out how to get all of the credit reporting standards to work in your favor, we do have our training course. Go to creditrepairtrainingcourse.com and there is more information there. And so that being said, Doug, man, I appreciate it. It is always a pleasure. Those of you guys watching us, thank you all as well. Let's see here. Warren Maxwell, let's see. Thinks it's all about the win. There you go. Unless you're an actual expert, in which case it's just for the love of the game. That being said, you guys go out there, do something amazing with this knowledge, and we will see you on the next video. You guys take care.